Oh, wonderful, beautiful, wide world, with the wonderful waters around you curled, and the beautiful grasses upon your dress. Oh, wonderful, beautiful, beautifully dressed. All the stars in the night sky shining, all the blues in the ocean. Oh, wonderful, beautiful, wide world, with the wonderful waters around you, and the beautiful grasses upon your breast. Oh, wonderful, beautiful, wide world, with the wonderful waters around you curl, and the beautiful grasses upon your breast. Oh, world, you are wonderfully, beautifully, wildly blessed.
Wonderfully, beautifully, wildly blessed. Is that, wow, I love it. Let's give them some more love.
Wonderfully, wildly blessed. That's a DeLong song.
Beautiful, thank you. Oh, it's a DeLon song. Wow. Hello, beloveds. Good morning. I'm going to move this over. Otherwise, I get stuck behind there and I can't be with you. So, hey, oh, wow, it's so freeing. Oh my goodness, it's so good to see you all here today. I'm just going to look at you for a moment, and you can look at me. And then you can shift your gaze back to the wonderful, beautiful lake out there. Oh, yeah, here we are. It's August. It's August already? Really? Wow, right? Yeah. Okay, here we are. So, our theme for the year has been a living everyday wonder, and so each month we have our Seed of Awakening, and the Seed of Awakening for this month is nature. And I have to say, all of those songs were so perfect. Thank you, Jimmy and the band and Choir Angels and Steve. Love you guys, yeah. What a gift you guys all have. Thank you so much. And so for the month, we're going to be exploring the wonder of nature, and that is the talk title for today. And as I was sitting here listening to that last song and looking out at the lake, it occurred to me that I think everyone who's in this room has a real love for nature already, and so and that we all probably really do explore nature in our own ways, whether it is here this morning on Sunday morning looking out at nature, or in our own homes. You know, we have our yards and we have our areas. So we're going to look more at how can we really have that connection with nature on a daily basis throughout the month of August. Now, sometimes it's challenging, right? Because if you live in Paso Robles, Atascadero, or Templeton, it gets a little bit hot. So, but you want to be able to get outside at least for a little bit. You know, you may have to wake up a little early. 6 in the morning, yes. Get up and get outside even if it's just for 5 or 10 minutes, and really connect with nature and be present to the presence, yes? So that's what we're exploring, and I love it here, and I love that we have the shades open. It's so powerful and so beautiful to get to connect with like the ducks, excuse me, that were out. The ducks that were out there, or are still out there probably. So it's a beautiful thing. Now, we live on Earth, but the question that we have for ourselves this week is, are we living as one? Are we living as one in harmony with the planet, with nature, and all living beings, including ourselves? Because if we truly believe that God is all there is, then we will live in a way that reflects this truth. And so the call to action for us is to connect with that space and to really be present and aware of how we're moving through the world, and moving from just saying the words into actually being that presence everywhere we find ourselves, whether in nature or at Starbucks or wherever the local coffee shop is, Wherever you find yourself, is there that connection, And so, this planet is so large that when I stop and think about, we're actually on a planet right now. This is planet Earth, and so here we are in this room together. Out of all the people that live on this earth, we're here together. We're here in Zoom together. Hello, Zoomers, wherever you are in your geographical location. But we're all together, and this planet Earth is hurtling through space at like 67,000 miles per hour, right? We're just hurtling through space right now. That's kind of cool when you think about that. But when I really think about that, I think about how vast and eternal that space actually is, and with the recent discoveries of that new Webb telescope. Is it the Webb, James Webb? Yes. And so the photos that they've been able to take with that and I've been seeing more and more in the last month or so about those photos, and it's like, wow, there are things out there that we before couldn't see, or maybe we saw it and it was a little fuzzy, and wow, how I can take that macrocosm and bring it down into my own life. Love has always been here. It's just been a little fuzzy sometimes, and as I tune into it, I can see it. And so that is really what we're up to here, being able to see and to feel and to have an experience of the love of Spirit that is within us and all around us every moment. Yes. She's nodding. I know. Hey, I don't mind. I'm trying to pull it out of you here. I'll keep working on it, though, okay? So do we regularly think about all of the gifts that we receive from the planet? So we are all, if you think about it a little more, we are all of this planet, and everything, this entire manifest creation is the body of God, right? So when you think about that creative process, which looks like a V, but it's not, that metaphysical teaching symbol, you have the involution of spirit and then the evolution back to spirit. So things come into form and things return back to spirit, right? And so all of this is part of that. So when we're out in nature and we see leaves and plants and trees and flowers and animals, squirrels. Yesterday I was on a walk with my husband and we saw an opossum crossing the street midday. It was the middle of the day. It was so bizarre. And but are we really giving thanks for all that we get from this earth, right? Water. When we drink water, and next week's going to be all about water. When we drink that water and feel that hydration and know that it's doing great work in our bodies and our cells, that it's actually hydrating us and serving us in such a good way. Or when we eat our food, are we eating it consciously and acknowledging where this food came from, wherever you find yourself? Where did this food come from? It was grown, and there was so much love that has gone into bringing it to our tables, including the way it got shipped from the growers, right, the seed planters, all the way to who prepared it. And now you're eating it. It's such a beautiful gift. And so we are really going to get grounded in our gratitude for that this month. So we're all astronauts on the spaceship that is planet Earth. Now, given the fact that Earth is hurtling through space at 67,000 miles per hour on its annual journey around the sun, we're astronauts. So where we are headed as a species actually depends on how well we learn to navigate, maintain, and preserve the vessel that we are traveling on. And so, do you perceive yourself as a passenger or a crew member? There is a profound difference, isn't there? If we're just passengers, we're just here for the ride. But as crew members, we have responsibilities, and we're finding ways that we can be responsible for this amazing spaceship that we're traveling through space on. It's a different way to look at it, right? So as we honor our planet with focused intention, we move from being passive passengers to conscious crew members. And that's what we're about. So there are so many things to love and appreciate about this planet. And today I'm very grateful for all of the beautiful food that we get, all of which comes from the earth, made from the divine. And so, dearest Mother, Father, God, expressing as Mother, Gaia, Pachamama, Artemis, Demeter, Persephone, blessings and praise for this magnificent gift. All of our clothes that we're wearing, thank God for clothes. Talking for myself here, okay? I'm speaking for myself. I'm very grateful. Thank you for these clothes, our bikes, technology, cars, books, homes, and more. All of it is generated here. So when you're out and when you leave this service today and you are out in the world, whether you drove here, rode your bike, or walked, you can look at everything and see it as, wow, this came from the earth that we're on. Like, we actually have the materials and the resources that helped create that. And how did those get created? But through the creative process that we talk about here all the time, right? And so you can see that creative process at work everywhere. And so the calling is for us to acknowledge that and to see that and to be present to the space of oneness. So the two main principles are oneness and the creative process. And so throughout the month, and why would we be interested in looking at oneness and noticing where the creative process is at work? Because as we notice it in all of our surroundings and everywhere, we begin to recognize it and realize it's right within us. So the same creative process that has created all of this beauty, magnificent glory, I said it for you, is within us. That means that we have the power to create. We are connected to the very same divine intelligence that has created everything. And it's in us. And so whatever your deepest longing, whatever your heart's desire is, whatever your soul desires that maybe you can't even articulate with your mind or with your thoughts yet, is possible. It is absolutely possible. And you know what? You deserve it. And you can have it. You can have anything you want for yourself in your life. Whether that be a deeper relationship with Spirit or a brand new Tesla, whatever. Hey, that's good for the planet. Yeah. Just doing your, planetary good for the... So anyway, the air is plentiful, right? Never had to be concerned about where you were going to get your air. You never had to go down to the store to buy it. It's just here. The air is plentiful. And so we really recognize that we are more than passengers. We are crew members. And the request is that we commit to doing our part to care for this magnificent heavenly body that is hurtling through space while keeping us planted firmly on this ground. It's so cool if you really think about it. Now, throughout the month, we're going to be developing what I consider an ecological consciousness. Now, to have an ecological consciousness refers specifically to a way of being, a way of moving through the world. It's not necessarily focused on being better educated in the field of ecology and sustainability, but instead speaks to a different way of being, a different way of us moving through the world, in approaching everything with new eyes, a new way of perceiving and experiencing and interacting with the entire natural world around us. That's our ecological consciousness. So this fosters a respect for nature and all the things that exist within it. Everything, even spiders. I know. Spiders, yes, I know. And bees. And snakes. You name it, right? There's just a way that it's all working together. And so in that idea of the different ecosystems, right, and the ecosystem in which we live, there is an ecosystem in this community. And so we all exist in a particular way. And then just like ecosystems in nature, when one specific type of animal is removed from the ecosystem, everything transforms. It just transforms. It's like the domino effect. And this is one of the things I'm so loving about our book of the month, which is called The Secret Wisdom of Nature: Trees, Animals, and the Extraordinary Balance of All Living Things. Now, when I first started on this book, it seemed very heady, and then I got into it because he's talking about the importance of animals like wolves and how we're consistently trying to get rid of the wolves, but the wolves actually play a very important part. And so the author, Peter Wohlleben, has stories from science and observation here, where there have been studies about what happens if you remove the wolves from a certain ecosystem. And he studied like with Yellowstone, and so it's just awesome. It's like, oh, they're, the way that the elk and the wolves and the bears all work together. There was a period of time in a river bank where they had too many elk. And so the elk were eating up all of the shrubs and the plants and everything on the riverbed or on the riverbank. And then what happened was the beavers that were building the dams and doing their thing to help the flow of the river, they didn't have food to eat, and they didn't have a way to do their work on the river to keep it in a straight flow. And so the beavers died off. And then the river ended up being super curvy and just wild, And so they decided that they would bring in some wolves from a different location, and then the wolves ended up eating the elk, and then there were more shrubs, and then the beavers came back, and then the rivers got better, and then they had another problem, and then and it just goes on and on. So the book is so beautiful, and it's available for you to purchase if you'd like to after the service, but it's like this meditation, and it really brings you into nature from right where you are, and it's really powerful. So how might I get more tuned into nature this month? Well, the easiest and best way is to go outside, yes? The easiest and best way. And so I have always been drawn to nature, always. How about you guys? Have you always been drawn to nature? So I've always been drawn to nature. As a kid, we spent a lot of time outdoors. We lived on an acre of land in Madera Ranchos, and that was, the backyard was a full acre. And so in the backyard, we had all these amazing trees, and we had shrubs of all different kinds and flowers. And we had this huge pool out there because it's really hot in the Central Valley. And it was so awesome. And then our front yard was huge also. We had like rolling hills with green grass and those huge rocks that have moss on them and olive trees. It was amazing to just be out there. And so I spent a lot of time outside, as you can imagine. And I really grew to love it. And so we also went to the lake twice a year, and we camped in tents. I learned how to fish, and we would fish and then cook our fish for dinner or breakfast or lunch, whatever it was, you know. And we had a speedboat, and then we had a houseboat, and we would go snow skiing. I mean, I saw everything, it felt like, all of the different elements. So blessed. So blessed. But I learned to be in nature, and it became a space of beauty and connection for me. And so I still feel totally connected to spirit when I'm in nature today. It's like something happens. There is a presence, this eternal presence, where when I'm outside and there's, you know, of course there are people on the different hiking trails, but you have this connection, or I have this connection with the mountain and with the trees and the different shrubs and the flowers, and then there are different animals. Just all of that feeds my soul. And there is this feeling of oneness that occurs. And so in that oneness, that is what we are seeking to have the experience of when we get out into nature this week. Be present and available to what nature wants to share with you. Now, there were so many quotes that I found about nature, but one that was really touching for me was a quote from Buddha, who said, "If you wish to know the divine, feel the wind on your face and the warm sun on your hands." Oh, yeah. So we are seeking to experience, to have a palpable experience of the divine. And the reason for that is as we find our ways to connect with the divine, the power of the ego becomes less and less. And so the power, meaning the power of the unhealed ego, right? And so as we connect with spirit and find ways to consciously connect with it through prayer, meditation, you know, spiritual education, getting out in nature, then we have that tool, and we have a way to actually transfer it into the areas of our lives that we are maybe not happy about, or that we feel discontent with, or we feel are kind of in the wobble, you know. Then we get to experience that presence and that love and that beauty in all ways. Now, Chief Seattle said, "We don't inherit the earth from our ancestors, we borrow it from our children." Another powerful one, yes? So we don't inherit the earth from our ancestors. We are actually borrowing it for our children. There are actually children growing up, and they're going to get this planet Earth. They're probably saying, "Please drive electric cars, people." And then Albert Einstein said, "We still do not know 1,000th of 1% of what nature has revealed to us." And Claude Monet said, "The richness I achieve comes from nature. It is the source of my inspiration." Now, I want to share something with you that I read in John O'Donohue's book called Beauty, the Invisible Embrace. Are any of you familiar with this book? Oh, it's wonderful. I highly recommend it. And I recommend the Audible because his voice, he's got this great Irish accent, and so it's just soothing and poetic and beautiful to read. But in this book, he talks about a friend who has a very famous art gallery in Galway in the west of Ireland. And one time, his friend had an exhibition hanging there, and it was very abstract work. And a poet of no small renown came in to look at this exhibit, and he spent an hour looking at it. And just when he was about to leave, a farmer came into the gallery, and the farmer lived on the shores of a place called Loch Cara, which is the biggest lake in the west of Ireland. And about once a year, he made a trip to see an exhibit in the art gallery, and it just so happened that that was the day that he came in. And so the farmer was also a friend of the owner, and the gallery owner ended up introducing him to the poet. And so the poet took this simple farmer with him and brought him through the exhibition again, and he explained things to him, showing him different aspects of the painting that maybe he didn't see before. And it was a fascinating hour for this farmer. He was blown away. And so eventually they came to the door, and the farmer thanked the poet of no small renown and said, "You have an amazing eye, and I envy you of that gift." And he said, "Because you were able to see things in the paintings that I wouldn't even have glimpsed in 1,000 years. You have an amazing gift. I don't have a gift of an eye like that, but I have Tanalak." And the farmer said, "I live on the shores of a huge lake." The poet's like, "What is Tanalak? I've never heard of that." "Well, on this lake, on certain summer days when the lake is like a mirror and there is absolute stillness, I am able to hear the secret music that the mountains make on the surface of the lake." And it stayed like that. The poet was amazed. And 3 weeks later, they parted ways. And so 3 weeks later, a local teacher from that area was in the gallery, and the gallery owner told him that story and said, "Have you ever heard of this word Tanalak? What does it mean?" And the teacher said, "Oh, yes, I have heard of that word, and it's something that happens where that farmer lives. I've never seen it written down, but I suppose it means awareness. However, in truth, it's about 7 layers deeper than that." So Tanalak, doesn't that evoke like a mystical, magical sense of something? Almost like something that is unattainable, right? But this mystical sense is attainable, and we can have the experience of it wherever we find ourselves. You may be having an experience of it right now looking out at the lake. But when you leave here and as you move through the rest of your week, the invitation is to invoke that sense of the mystical connection that you experience with nature. Be fascinated with it, right? Approach it with wonder and awe, with that childlike sense of wanting to know more about it. Because as we begin to connect with nature, what happens is we become it. There is that sense of oneness that we get to experience. And how powerful is that? So I don't know if you guys know this, but, you know that evolution is happening. It's happening whether we want it to or not. Evolution is happening everywhere on planet Earth is what I'm speaking about right now. And everything is always evolving and transforming in this world, and everything is always evolving and transforming in our lives, even in our bodies, right? And so we run into a snag, however, when we do not accept the changes before us, and we kind of resist them and don't want them. And a good way for us to approach that is to approach it with love and be accepting of all the good that is happening before us. Because I think what happens, we get a little nervous about change because we're so used to what we know. And when things change, it's the unknown. But if we can become comfortable in the unknown, which is the invisible presence that is walking through all feet, then we will have faith and conviction, and we will not be afraid. There's nothing to fear. If we really got who it was that was walking beside us, we would have no fear. And so I was reading about how much we humans have changed since we first appeared on this planet. It was a long time ago, long time ago in a galaxy, but no, in this galaxy on this planet. We now have smaller bodies than we had before, and we have smaller brains, and they believe that that's related to having a smaller body, so now we have smaller brains, and we also have smaller teeth and jaws also thought to be related to our smaller bodies. And if you can look this stuff up, right, and get lost in it if you want to, but there was a great sentence about how some people today don't even have space in their jaws to fit their third molars. Like back in the day, jaws were big enough to fit wisdom teeth. But today, what happens? We're all going to get them removed, right? How many have had your wisdom teeth removed? Okay, me too, right? And 4 others. Yeah, because our jaws are smaller. So the beautiful thing about this is that these changes have occurred over time, and changes occur over time and will continue to occur over time on the planet that we live in our bodies that we also live in. Thank you, body, for housing this soul. You know, in our communities, in our work, in our home lives, things are always evolving and transforming. And so our calling is to be a crew member as conscious crew members wherever we find ourselves, you know, to move from just being passengers. If we're unhappy with the state of our physical bodies, then how can we become conscious passengers, you know? We don't have a soul, we are souls with bodies, right? And so the soul in this body, the soul wants to do a lot, you know? I don't have enough time for everything the soul wants to do. Just cancel, I didn't just say that. There's plenty of time, you know? It seems like it, like the soul is on fire sometimes. It's like, woo! And so the soul is calling me to take care of my body in a way that will allow it to experience all the beauty and love and magnificence that it wants to experience, you know? And so what a beautiful reminder that if there's any struggle that you're experiencing in your life, in your physical body, in your emotional body, in the body of your affairs, it's a great opportunity to see our practitioner of the day, Gina. We have cards over on the table as well to connect with a practitioner and get with them and allow them to know the truth of who you are and give you that spiritual boost that you may need. Even if there's nothing going on and you just want to feel that connection, get some prayer. It's so powerful. So we are astronauts on the spaceship of Earth. All is God and all is life. So what we do to and for our planet and life, we also do to and for ourselves, both good and the perceived bad. So let us do that which is good, that which is healing, that which is wholesome for planet Earth and for ourselves and all of life, our entire human family, and ultimately us. So one thing that I recently did was I picked up one of these little things called a stasher. Have you seen these? They're like $5 or something, $6.99 maybe, I don't know. But they've got you can get 2, and there's this bigger sizes. And I used to put my supplements in a little plastic baggie, one of those little snack baggies. And then I'd throw away the snack baggie at the end. And so I discovered these, and these are reusable. You can wash them. I think they're dishwasher safe. And so I started using this, and now every time I use it, I actually have a visceral feeling, like I feel good about it. And I think about Earth, and I think about just that one little tiny thing and how much of a difference that makes. And so in addition to us making time daily this week to get out in nature, the calling for us is to consider what is one small change that I can make in my life that would contribute to the wellness of our planet. And also, friends, while you're getting out in nature, I invite you to look more deeply at the ground below. Like oftentimes we just stand on the ground and there's leaves and stuff or wherever we're standing, but what's really going on down there? You know, take a look. There's like a whole ecosystem down there. Look for the different ecosystems wherever you are and ponder and contemplate those, not only on the ground, but in the sky, in the trees, wherever you are. Just look around and look deeply. Now, the calling is to find one way to connect with nature daily this week. It could be that you go to a park, you have a picnic, you start a garden, maybe you meditate by a tree. Has anyone ever done that? Like Buddha? It's powerful. Yeah. Walk through your neighborhood and notice the different plants and flowers and trees that are growing. And as I mentioned, consider if there's any way or any small change that you can make in your life that would contribute to the wellness of the planet, thereby contributing to your own wellness. And the questions to ask yourself are, what facts do I know about planet Earth? And number 2 is, how has the evolution of humankind affected the planet over the last 100 years? What about the last 20 years? And then 3rd, what is one simple change I can make for a positive impact on the planet? And so I'm going to close with this beautiful quote from Ernest Holmes. He says, "I am guided by the same intelligence and inspired by the same imagination which scatters the moonbeams across the waves and holds the forces of nature in its grasp." Let's take a deep breath together. And join me in turning your attention inward in this moment. And as we turn our attention inward, we return to this beautiful, expansive space within. And it is this space within where I know and remember with every fiber of my being that spirit is all that there is. And I remember that I am connected, that I am one with spirit all the time. I can never be separate. That spirit is within me. I have been created in the image and likeness of the divine. It is in me. It's in me not like jellies in a donut or gases in a car. It is in me like I am made of the stuff of spirit. And so as I remember this truth, I can connect with it. I begin to identify with the presence of spirit that lives within me. And in that identification, I merge with it, and I know that I am one with it, and that there is nowhere that spirit is not. And so as we go forward from here, throughout the rest of our day and throughout this week until we meet again, I know that each one of us is looking for this connection in nature. It's the connection with spirit. It's like what one of the great Sufi poets said, it may have been Hafez, because the one I love lives inside of you. I lean as close to you as I can. We have that experience in nature. We recognize spirit in nature. We recognize it in the leaves and the plants and the flowers and the buds and even the dried flowers that haven't received their hydration, or maybe it's their time to move on to the next realm. We notice it in the trees and the water and the lake and the birds and all of the animals, the wild animals and the animals in our own homes. Oh, and there is such a deep connection, and there is a reverence. And that is the moment where we remember and honor the sacred soul present in every life. The sacred soul present everywhere. And it is so good. And I am so grateful for this day. I'm so grateful for all of the love that Spirit has brought into my life, into the life of this community, into the life of each individual here. I'm so grateful for the awakening that is happening, that every day we are each evolving. Every day in every way we are getting better and better, meaning we are evolving every day. We are waking up a little more. It's like every cell of our body is awakening, and one cell awakens and it sparks the other one. And it's like, oh, when we wake up in the morning, we can go, oh, a new cell has awakened today. And then another cell awakens, and there is just a continuous awakening. And this is the joy and the beauty of being on this planet. We get to awaken to love. We get to awaken to more beauty every day. We get to awaken to the perfect, vibrant health in our bodies. We get to awaken to the prosperity that is ours. We get to awaken to this overflowing, boundless good that is available to us in our lives. I am awake. I am awake. I am awake. And I accept this good and so much more. And I am so grateful, Spirit, for this beautiful day and this life. It is a good life. And we are blessed, and so it is. Yay. Right.